Hello, this is Jared French. I'm going to speak to you about John Leland. His dates are 1754 to 1841. He was born in Grafton, Massachusetts, and he promptly entered ministry after having a personal faith commitment to Jesus. He was baptized on June 1st, 1774. Now, that ministry that was promptly started upon having personal faith in Jesus lasted 67 years till he died. His first 15 years were in Virginia. Virginia history shows how he started multiple churches. He baptized hundreds. He was a voice for religious liberty. He participated in the 1788 U.S. Constitution ratification, how Baptists viewed that process. In 1791, he was moved back to New England. There he published pamphlets on religious liberty. He preached political sermons. He was the pastor of a congregation in Cheshire, Massachusetts. Studies on Madison and Jefferson have him often as a background figure. But as Dresdenbach, Hall, and McBride argue and demonstrate in their studies, if we're going to reconstruct and interpret the past property, the founding, we need to expound our studies beyond the top 5 or 10 founders. And so Leland should be more than a backdrop. But yet I present to you two Ph.D. dissertations that still he's kind of a backdrop figure. And let me show you here. The first dissertation is Render unto Caesar Sources of the Political Thought of John Leland. This is by Miss Martha E. Boland from 1997. The purpose of this dissertation was to analyze the political writings of John Leland to discover the impact of American democratic ideology as espoused by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. So it's a very well organized paper. Each historical subject gets a biographical sketch, a summary of their political writings, and then a summary of what was found in those writings. The conclusions really where the bulk of the work is at, and it really argues where Leland relied and was similar to Madison and Jefferson. And again, it's lengthy. Many of the primary sources are the political writings of each historical subject. Secondary works consulted to fill out the biographical and historical context. It weighs in at 151 pages before the bibliography. It was completed within 6 years of the master's, and Ms. Boland served as a fellow of several professors of church history during this time. To contrast that, the second one is How High the Wall, a comparison of church-state separation, positions of Thomas Jefferson and John Leland. This was completed by Richard C. Huff in 2003. It weighs in at 424 pages before the bibliography, and this is 25 years after he completed his master's. I'm guessing this reflects decades of study before the Ph.D. Its 3 parts are the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, Jefferson, and Leland. Many of the same primary sources are consulted as the other dissertation, but secondary sources are different because it expands out to public theology works. Its conclusion is easier to summarize. The conclusion is that Jefferson actually has a lower wall of separation between church and state than the Baptist, John Leland. He wants a high wall. Why? Because Leland was consumed with the prospect of religious oppression. Consumed. Now, how that worked out practically, because Leland preached before Congress. But to conclude, as Christian historians, we want to reconstruct the founding with primary sources, a careful, reasonable study, just like Luke does in Luke chapter 1, 1 through 4. And so I offer Leland as another voice, one of the many other hundreds that we can add to our listening to the founding. Thank you for your time. I'll see you on the discussion boards.